Out of some of the newer movies to see this weekend, War Games is a surefire bet, and I think it will be one of the big hits of the summer. War Games is about a computer whiz kid who inadvertently taps into the United States national security system and starts to play some sophisticated games.
Let's play Global Thermonuclear War.
That's what the kid and the computer play, but is it a game or is it real? All of a sudden, the Pentagon thinks the Russians have pushed the big button and vice versa. War Games is exciting, funny, and has an interesting message. It's rated PG, and I give it a 9. Another one of the newer movies to see is Trading Places. It stars Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy. This R-rated comedy has Murphy as a streetwise ghetto punk and Aykroyd as a wealthy and stuffy investment analyst. Could someone like Murphy run a complex commodities house? And could someone like Aykroyd resort to crime to fight his way out of the ghetto? You'll find out when Murphy and Aykroyd are trading places. It's a very funny comedy that gets an 8 on my rating scale. Steve Martin's latest movie, The Man with Two Brains, is also funny. Martin is a famous neurosurgeon who falls in love with a disembodied brain. But he's already married to the sultry but sinister Kathleen Turner. It's a strange idea for a movie, but what else would you expect from Steve Martin? The film was rated R on their scale and a 7 on mine. Psycho 2 is a good movie. It's suspenseful and funny in a strange kind of way. And Anthony Perkins as the allegedly cured Norman Bates is great. The film was rated R and it also gets a 7. And other movies worth seeing are Return of the Jedi, that is if you don't mind waiting in line, and the action-packed movie Blue Thunder is also good. And that's it for now. I hope you have a nice movie watching weekend. I'm Dino Lawley. The Man with Two Brains is two-sided in its effect. Some parts of the movie are much funnier than others. The Man with Two Brains relies more on the wild and crazy stuff and sight gags, like Steve Martin's first movie, The Jerk, instead of the semi-low-key comedy as in Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. This time around, Steve Martin plays a famous and accomplished neurosurgeon. His name is Michael Herfurr. That's the way it's pronounced in the film. This is the way it's spelled. H-F-U-H-R-U-H-U-R-R. Okay? Anyway, Martin, whose wife just recently passed away, has created a new method of brain surgery, the cranial screw-top method. Okay? Now, one night, he accidentally runs over Kathleen Turner. She's hurt badly, but Martin saves her with his new surgical technique. He falls in love with her, but Turner's character is devious, cold-blooded, manipulative, and marries only for money. Now, she loves to taunt her new husband, whom she really doesn't love in the first place, and therefore, Steve Martin is, shall we say, sexually frustrated. Well, on a trip to Vienna, Martin meets a colleague of his, played by David Warner. He's doing experiments with brains himself. And it's there Martin meets a great lady, a wonderful conversationalist, and now the love of his life. But unfortunately, it's actually a disembodied brain. The lady's body was the victim of a crazed elevator killer. Now, the killer injects his victims with lethal doses of window cleaner, so the brain dies last. That's it, folks. The identity of the crazed elevator killer is quite funny and is revealed in the film's final moments. So what you've got in Martin's situation is a romantic film dilemma. A married man in love with another woman. Only this time, of course, this woman is in desperate need of a body. And with a little imagination, you'll be able to figure out where Martin looks to find the badly needed body for his newfound love. Now, The Man with Two Brains is funny, although I did get a little tired of all the sexually oriented jokes. Here's the typical Steve Martin comic twist in a scene where he is stopped by a police officer and given a drinking test.
Now walk this white line. Halt! Come back. On your hands. One hand. Now do. Roll over, turn over, and flip-flop. All right. Now juggle this, do a tap dance, and sing the Catalina Magdalena Lupensteiner Wollenbeine song. Damn, your drunk tests are hard. Catalina Magdalena Lupensteiner Wollenbeine. What's her name?
That's pretty good. Now, Steve Martin is quite good in this film. Watching him brought back memories of the Steve Martin of old. Kathleen Turner is excellent in this, her first film, since her sensational performance in the movie Body Heat. She's sensuous and does a very good job as a foil for Martin. David Warner adds a nice touch of madness as one of Martin's colleagues. On my rating scale, The Man with Two Brains gets a 7. Some of the film's gags don't quite work and are really not that original. I think this movie will please Martin's most ardent fans. As for others, they might find that the movie almost has a split personality. I'm Dino Lawley. The fascination with video games has become a multi-billion-dollar mania in this country, and it has also spawned a new form of education, especially among the young, such as these children studying the science of computer programming at the Children's Computer School in New York.
The children are amazing. They take to computers without any fear, and the programs they write on the computer are really quite outstanding.
It's a lot of fun to try to do something that people say is impossible or hard to do. I remember people saying when the cartridges came out that, hey, we can't copy these cartridges. They're silicon chips. They're not discs. And sure enough, I can copy a cartridge, any of them.
They change the password every couple of...
Those your grades?
Yep. I don't think that I deserved an F. Do you?
You can't do that.
Already done.
These are my grades.
I've spoken to computer people, some of whom think it'll be great, that every kid in America want to go out and buy a computer so that he can punch into his high school's computer and change his grades. I was talking to a group of high school students a couple of weeks ago, and there was one kid smiling through the story. And I said to him afterwards, "What were you smiling about?" He said, "I did it." And he just walked out of the room. He just said, "I did it."
Protovision, I have you now.
The fascination with video games has become a multi-billion-dollar mania in this country, and it has also spawned a new form of education, especially among the young, such as these children studying the science of computer programming at the Children's Computer School in New York. Principal Mitchell Kreskin.
The children are amazing. They take to computers without any fear, and the programs they write on the computer are really quite outstanding.
For many youngsters, the fascination with computers involves trying to accomplish the impossible. Los Angeles high school student Mark Bentauer.
It's a lot of fun to try to do something that people say is impossible or hard to do. I remember people saying when the cartridges came out that, hey, we can't copy these cartridges. They're silicon chips. They're not discs. And sure enough, I can copy a cartridge, any of them.
They changed the password.
Certainly one of the most creative uses of a computer from a student's point of view is revealed in the new motion picture War Games, a film that deals heavily with kids and computers.
Those your grades?
Yep. I don't think that I deserved an F. Do you?
You can't do that.
The executive producer of War Games, Leonard Goldberg, indicates that what the film shows is far more than just fiction.
I've spoken to computer people, some of whom think it'll be great, that every kid in America want to go out and buy a computer so that he can punch into his high school's computer and change his grades. I was talking to a group of high school students a couple of weeks ago, and there was one kid smiling through the story. And I said to him afterwards, "What were you smiling about?" He said, "I did it." And he just walked out of the room. He just said, "I did it."
Obviously, the youngsters of today are becoming very computer conscious and in many instances taking control. Tomorrow on Action 4, we'll see that changing grades isn't the only way personal computers can be abused as we continue our week-long series, The Ultimate Video Game. I'm Dino Lawley. Computer crime has become one of the major growth industries of the 80s, and it's understandable when you consider that computers transfer over $400 billion every day. It is even a threat to our national security. As depicted in the new motion picture War Games, the U.S. has been brought to a full military alert, all because a typical computer whiz kid has inadvertently gained access to our military computer system and ends up playing a deadly game of Pac-Man with the Pentagon.
How about global thermonuclear war? Fine. All right.
This may seem outrageous, but according to Don Williams, a computer security specialist for a major defense contractor, it could happen.
The rules say that this should never occur, and they have procedures set up to say that it won't occur. But in reality, because people are real, they do things for convenience, because it's a way to get a job done, these holes develop.
In fact, there have been numerous instances when America has been brought to military alert due to human or computer error, as War Games director John Badham explains.
In 1980, there were a number of false alerts that got NORAD all cranked up and had them tracking a flock of geese over Alaska, because all the machinery is so sensitive, it starts picking up peculiar things that have nothing to do with supposed missiles coming in or airplanes flying over. They're constantly checking and cross-checking with one another, trying to avoid these mistakes, but they do seem to happen.
While the probability of triggering a nuclear incident by accident is remote, the technology to do it exists in millions of American homes right now.
The possibility that a youngster could do this on a fluke is a very real possibility.
Tomorrow on Action 4, a look at the ultimate game, a game that's played in the nuclear arcade. I'm Dino Lally. From the earliest days of motion pictures, the operative word in Hollywood has been imagination. The magical ability to make an audience believe that what they see on the screen is real stands at the very heart of movie making. But how do you make something better than it really is when that something is spectacular already? In making the film War Games, the challenge was not just to duplicate the NORAD headquarters in Colorado, but to improve upon it. Executive producer Leonard Goldberg.
I made the mistake one day of saying to them, this is a very important part of the film, so don't inhibit yourself. Spare no expense. They didn't. It's one of the most expensive sets ever constructed for a film. It's the kind of set that Cecil B. DeMille would have been proud of.
When NORAD was built in the 1960s, it cost $142 million. The recreation of the Crystal Palace in War Games cost $4.5 million and is a study in computer technology in itself. The film's video consultant, Steve Grimmett.
In many respects, this film is technically the most complicated film that's ever been shot. For the war room scenes, they had to synchronize 2 computers, 120 television monitors, and 12 rear screen projectors.
Ali Sheedy, one of War Games' stars, was overwhelmed by the results.
It is an incredible set. I mean, they built computers and there's screens with the world maps on it and missiles flying around. And it's got about 5 or 6 million levels to it. It's got 5 or 6 levels to it.
War Games director John Badham.
I know that the NORAD people would like to have our set because ours is a much more updated version of theirs, which was built 20 years ago. But the computer technology is far advanced over what they originally built 20 years ago.
If what they say is true, that art imitates life, then you have to believe that the future of computers, even in motion pictures, will be truly astounding. Tomorrow on Part 4 of our special series, a look at the 2 stars of War Games, Matthew Broderick and Ali Sheedy. I'm Dino Lally. At an age when most young people are just choosing a career, Matthew Broderick and Ali Sheedy, the 2 stars of the motion picture War Games, have already made their mark in one of the most demanding professions of all, acting. Discovered by playwright Neil Simon, Matthew Broderick is currently starring in his Brighton Beach memoirs on Broadway. But it was his role in Simon's Max Dugan Returns that brought him to the attention of War Games executive producer Leonard Goldberg.
We sat in the room and saw 5 minutes of the film and said, let's go, he's the kid.
Matthew, son of the late actor James Broderick, realizes the difference between a Broadway show and a major motion picture.
I mean, in a play, you can't get chased by a helicopter, which I got to do in War Games, which was just wild. Alone on this dark lake, in a little island with a real big helicopter zooming over me and Allie's head. There are some things about film that be hard to put on a Broadway stage.
At age 20, Ollie Sheedy is already into her second career. The first began at age 12 when she published a book of children's stories. Today, when she isn't in front of the camera, she's a full-time student at USC.
I want to take things like political science and philosophy and English literature. It's important to me. And I don't think I finished my education yet, you know. I don't feel finished with it. I don't feel like I'm ready to quit school. I want to be in class. And I like the structure of going to school and having my friends here, and I like USC a lot. So I really want to stay, you know.
Only time will tell what the future holds for Matthew Broderick and Ollie Sheedy, but War Games director John Badham has a pretty good idea.
I think what you want to see is what happens when young girls discover Matthew. I think that's the thing to look forward to. And she has million-dollar instincts and a smile that just won't quit. I mean, she's a lovely, lovely quality to go with him.
I'll review the movie War Games for you tomorrow on Action 4. I'm Dino Lawley.
Multiple impact re-entry vehicles.
How's that, man?
I don't know, but it's great.
More and more of the summer movies are ever so slowly coming to town, and I've got to tell you that the ones that are already here are so exciting they just got me turning flips. At the top of my list of movies to see this weekend is a movie about computers, like the ones you see around me here. Now, the name of the movie is War Games. Now, of course, this computer is a little prejudiced in selecting its favorite movie, but War Games is exciting, suspenseful, and funny. It's about a computer whiz kid played by Matthew Broderick who accidentally plugs into the Defense Department's War Games computer, and look out, United States and Russia. War Games is for teens and adults. With a clever script, impressive acting, fantastic directing, War Games is an excellent movie that's rated PG, and it gets a 9 on my rating scale. For comedy, turn around and look at Trading Places. This movie starring Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy is a modern version of The Prince and the Pauper. Aykroyd is a high-dollar, stuffy commodities investor, and Murphy is a streetwise punk. And because of a cruel and ruthless bet, they are tricked into trading places in society. The results yield a lot of laughter. Trading Places is rated R, and the profit shows an 8 on my rating scale. I guess you could say Trading Places is bullish on comedy. See, it's on the... Okay. Next is a movie with Roger Moore. He's back as the suave secret agent 007 James Bond in a film called Octopussy. The new adventure has an exotic smuggler played by Maud Adams and an Afghan prince played by Louise Jourdain. There's action, girls, and great stunts typical of the Bond movies. With a PG rating, a 7 is rung up on my rating scale. Other films we're seeing are Psycho 2, it gets a 7. Other films, The Man with Two Brains, also gets a 7. Next is Blue Thunder, it gets an 8. The last film is Return of the Jedi, it gets a 10. My time is up for now. I'll see you next week. Okay, computer, do your stuff.
I'm Dino Bobby.
Very good. At a time when worldwide nuclear protests are taking place so often, it's very timely that a movie like War Games should be playing in theaters. War Games is suspenseful, exciting, funny, and provides for a very entertaining time at the theater. It's the kind of movie that has a wide appeal to both the teenagers and adults. Now, after an exciting missile sequence opening, we are introduced to Matthew Broderick, a typical middle-class high school student. Broderick is an underachiever in school. He's bored with regular schoolwork, but when it comes to computers and video games, he's a whiz. He shows a fellow classmate, played by the cute Ollie Sheedy, how he has tapped into the school's computer system. He also shows her how he can change their grades from an F to a C. But later, Broderick inadvertently hooks into the U.S. Defense Department's computer at the NORAD headquarters in Colorado. That computer, nicknamed Whopper, controls our missile system, and it keeps an eye on the Russians. Wanting to play a fun game with the computer, Broderick chooses one that sounds awfully exciting.
Let's play Global Thermonuclear War. Fine. All right.
I have 7, correction 8. That's 8 red birds, 2 degrees past apogee.
Better get the old man down here.
Over Dane, we have Soviet missile warning. Check for malfunction and report confident.
What the hell?
What is all that stuff?
I don't know. They're trajectory headings for multiple impact re-entry vehicles.
What does that mean?
I don't know, but it's great.
Well, all is not great, and of course later Broderick learns that the game is real, and he tries to stop, but the computer continues to play. All of a sudden, World War III is a very real possibility. Matthew Broderick and Ali Sheedy are very good in the movie. This is only the second film for both of them, but they are very believable and fun to watch. They are relaxed and had a good chemistry working. All the performances are great. War Games director John Badham, who also directed Blue Thunder, does an excellent job of keeping a swift and exciting pace. He's an action master and knows how to tell a complex story. On my rating scale, War Games gets a 9. There are a few holes in the plot, but they're minor and don't take away from the picture's main action. War Games, besides being entertaining, is also thought-provoking. It raises some interesting questions about computers and nuclear weapons. War Games, though, overall is clever, exciting, and makes for an explosive evening that's megatons of fun. Now let's see what my review rates on this computer.
Dino's review does not compute.
Does not compute? What? Wait, I'm just kidding, really. I didn't mean it. That's okay. Wait, that's okay. Wait. I'm Dino Lolly.
Oh, by the way, we haven't been properly introduced, Melina. My name is Bond. James Bond.
Of all the movie heroes who have had their share of glamorous women, none has been more successful both as a hero and also as a man for all women than James Bond.
We're not dead yet.
Take one. For 21 years, Agent 007 has been thrilling movie audiences and some of the most beautiful women ever to appear on screen.
I wondered when you might arrive.
Even now, in Octopussy, Bond's 13th movie, there is one woman who remains a constant in the life of 007.
Well, I must say you become more beautiful every day.
I am over here.
Well, of course you are.
And this.
Lois Maxwell first appeared as Moneypenny in Dr. No in 1962. Now, more than 2 decades later, Moneypenny is still the lady in James Bond's life.
And as charming.
As I used to be?
I didn't say that.
Oh, you're such a flatterer, James.
I don't know how to say goodbye.
Actions speak louder than words.
You're so right.
Penny, you know there never has been, and there never will be anybody but you.
So you've told me.
Tomorrow I'll look at the different modes of transportation James Bond has used in the movies. I'm Dino Lolly. When the writer Ian Fleming created Agent 007, known to most of us as James Bond, he said the stories go wildly beyond the probable, but not beyond the possible. In the latest Bond movie, Octopussy, Roger Moore as Bond manages to find more possible ways to get around than many of us would think probable. In fact, floating on a barge on a lake in India is probably the easiest trip Bond makes in this movie. Because in getting to place, he is having a devil of a time either hanging on to a moving train, boarding one from a speeding car by way of the sunroof, borrowing from Tarzan for a vine-powered leap through the jungles, using the latest floating device created by Q, doing things in a golf cart that no golfer would ever dare to do even after a hole-in-one, inviting himself into a palace the hard way, and showing us that there are at least 2 ways to fly that none of us have ever thought of, or if we did, we wouldn't have nearly the fun that Roger Moore has as he proves Octopussy has as much action as any other James Bond film. And speaking of action, Roger Moore commented on some of the action he doesn't care for in the Bond movies.
Things I don't like about making Bond, I think possibly the explosions, hate noise. There is a sort of a general relief at the end of each one that I've survived fairly unscathed. Fairly.
That's one close shave I can do without. Tomorrow on Action 4, I'll review the 13th James Bond movie, Octopussy. I'm Dino Lolly. Excuse me, you're,
Bond. James Bond.
Oh, yes, the suave, sophisticated British secret agent 007 is back. Now, this is the 13th Bond film and the 6th time Roger Moore has played the debonair secret agent. Now, in this latest adventure, there are the usual ingredients which go into making a James Bond movie. There is an exciting opening sequence. There are beautiful women. There are some new gadgets. There is a villain played by Louise Jourdain.
Let the sport commence.
There is a lovely leading lady played by Maud Adams. She is Octopussy from the title of the picture.
I don't have to apologize to you, a paid assassin, for what I am.
And we have those narrow escapes for Bond himself. There she goes. Now that's about it. Oh, I guess you would probably feel better if I put all the ingredients together and explained them, huh?
Thank you, I'd be delighted.
All right, it all starts with an egg. That's right, but this is no ordinary egg. It's a priceless coronation egg created by Carl Fabergé. It's supposed to be a Soviet art treasure. Now, fellow agent 009 has already been killed over the expensive egg, so 007 is sent in. Now, here we are introduced to Louise Jourdain, portraying an exiled Afghan prince. He outbids Moore for the egg, a trap, of course, for Jourdain. Then later, Maud Adams comes in as Jourdain's boss, more or less, and those two are tied to a renegade Russian general bent on destroying world peace through nuclear warfare sabotage. Of course, James Bond's mission is to save the world. Well, that's the basic premise. Roger Moore as 007 seems very casual this time around. At times, he almost appears to be bored in the part, but he is still effective. Maud Adams, the only actress to have starring roles in 2 Bond films, does an adequate job. Louise Jourdain could have been a more effective villain. In many ways, this movie is a typical Bond adventure. In other ways, it is a little bit of a disappointment. Now, we all know how the film is going to end, and nothing surprising happens. But it's those little side distractions and detours that keeps the pace moving. On my rating scale, Octopussy gets a 7. Now, more impressive than anything else are the stunts in the movie, one in particular being a plane sequence toward the end of the picture. Even with the small drawbacks, Octopussy can still be a typical, entertaining James Bond movie that has something for everyone. I'm Dino Lolly. Let's do Pure and Simple, Trading Places, starring Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd, is funny. The entire cast of Trading Places, which include people like Jamie Lee Curtis as a good-hearted prostitute, Ralph Bellamy and Donna Michi as 2 rich brothers, and Denholm Elliott as a butler, are all very good in their roles, and their energy and talent add greatly to the film. The premise of the movie is a simple one, a classic comedy situation. It all revolves around the question of which is more important, heredity, or environment? Which one is more influential? Well, that question is put to a test by the making of a bet between Ralph Bellamy and Don Ameche. They are the wealthy yet scheming brothers of a big commodities trading firm. Dan Aykroyd runs the house for them. He is an uppity financial whiz who is spoiled by his own lifestyle. He has a chauffeur and a beautiful in-town mansion. Now we have Eddie Murphy playing a streetwise ghetto hustler who lives day to day. Ralph Bellamy and Don Ameche bet on the results of Aykroyd and Murphy trading places. They cause Aykroyd to lose his job and to get arrested. Meanwhile, they set Murphy up in Aykroyd's old position to see how important environment or heredity is in determining character.
Yes. This is your home.
Right.
It belongs to you.
Yeah, all this is mine. I like my home. It's very nice. I have very nice tasting houses. I like
Everything you see in this room is yours now.
This is my stuff.
Your own personal property?
Yeah, my own personal.
You understand?
This is mine, yeah. I like that. Yeah, you know what I like most about my place, Randy? The curtains, man. Look at the curtains. It's beautiful the way I got this place set up, man. This is something else. I like it. The cabinets and whatnot. Beautiful. I suppose you're going to just give me this TV set for free, huh, Randy?
That's right.
Everything in here is mine, huh? Oh, I guess the stereo is mine free, too, huh?
Absolutely.
This is too much for me, man. You know, I can really dig this, Randy. You know why? This kind of thing happens to me every week.
Right. Now, of course, neither Murphy or Aykroyd know about the bet. Now, Jamie Lee Curtis takes Aykroyd in to help him get on his feet and to sort things out. Later, Curtis, Aykroyd, Murphy, and Denholm Elliott plan together to create a sting operation to get even with Ralph Bellamy and Don Ameche. Trading Places provides lots of laughs, with most of them going to Murphy. This picture proves his first film, 48 Hours, was no fluke. He is a major comic talent. Aykroyd, in a very different role, does quite well. The two who really make this picture work, though, the icing on the cake, are Ralph Bellamy and Don Ameche. They are superb. On my rating scale, Trading Places rates an 8. John Landis shows us again he is a talented director who knows how to work the big comic scenes. Trading Places is not without its flaws, one of which is a pacing problem. There are a couple of sequences that did nothing for the movie overall. But aside from that, Trading Places is funny, it's entertaining, and it is worth the price of admission because you get a return on your investment. Laughter. I'm Dino Lally. Trading Places, starring Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy, is the movie I'm recommending the most for weekend viewing. It's a very funny comedy that has Eddie Murphy as a street-smart hustler and Dan Aykroyd as a stuck-up investor. Don Ameche and Ralph Bellamy are two wealthy businessmen, and because of a bet they make, Aykroyd and Murphy are unknowingly forced to switch roles in society. Everyone does a great job with Eddie Murphy getting top honors. Trading Places is rated R, and I give it an 8 for a profit. Superman 3 comes flying at you in somewhat of a disappointing form, but Richard Pryor makes it all worthwhile. Superman 3 is a very different movie than what you might expect. It's the kind of movie that has good and bad points. Technically, it's a good film. The acting is good and the directing is good, but the plot leaves something to be desired. It's rated PG and it only gets a 6. And this guy is back.
Bond. James Bond.
Yes, Roger Moore makes his 6th appearance as Secret Agent 007 in a movie called Octopussy. There's action, danger, beautiful girls, close calls, a villain, and villainous of sorts. This is a flawed film, but it has some spectacular stunts and good moments overall. His 13th Bond movie is rated PG, and it gets a 7 if you plan to see it.
I intend to.
I thought you would say that. Here are some more movies worth seeing this weekend. War Games, Psycho 2, Tootsie for those who haven't seen it, Max Dugan Returns, Blue Thunder, The Man with Two Brains, and of course, Return of the Jedi. And I will return next week with more weekend movie selections. I'm Dino Lally. From the very start of the show, the 113th edition of the Ringling Brothers and Barnum & Bailey Circus is fun and exciting. You are presented with all sorts of animals of different shapes and sizes, beautiful showgirls, and of course, clowns, and more clowns. The Pink Panther also seems to have found a place in the circus, America's oldest traveling entertainment attraction. One of the first big acts to really get things going is the Globe of Death. As the powerful scream of Victor Urias' motorcycle engulfs the arena, you just know the next 2.5 hours will be a very entertaining ride for the entire family. One act that brings with it high expectations is the Carrillo Brothers, a fabulous high wire act that takes place 40 feet above the floor. They walk on a wire only 5/8 of an inch thick with as much ease as the way other people simply walk down the street. This is definitely not an act for performers with back trouble. And staying in the air, another impressive act belongs to Dolly Jacobs. Hailed as Queen of the Rings, you can surely see why she holds that title after watching her perform beautiful stunts on the difficult Roman rings. A recent addition to her act includes an aerial transfer from the rings to a waiting rope with a somersault in between. The excitement and danger from the fearless bowers will have you swaying back and forth in your seat. That's because they are swaying back and forth 70 feet in the air. They swing, hang, and perform incredible stunts in a very exciting act. And of course, the star of the show and the main attraction is the world-famous Gunther Gable Williams. Proving he is truly the world's greatest animal trainer, he works with some beautiful stallions, massive pachyderms, as well as the vicious tigers. It's truly amazing to watch Gunther Gable Williams and the animals. He holds almost a mystical power over them as they obey his commands. He talks to them in a language they can understand. And Williams proved his ability to have complete control over the animals again and again, as photographer Steve Houck will testify. An air of excitement surrounds the entire show. It's a fast-paced extravaganza full of color, movement, danger, and fun. There's something for the entire family as they prove once again that the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus truly is the greatest show on earth. I'm Dino Lawley.